Hey, so before we talk, I don't know if you ever had like one of them eyelashes that is, I don't know if I've got an eyelash going the wrong way or what it is, but it is really irritating my eye this morning. So if we're sitting here talking and I'm talking about how important CR is, and I'm like, isn't it, right? It's not, I'm not trying to lead people astray, and I don't really think it's a joke. I'm just got, I don't know. I got this weird eye thing going on. But you had the Celebrate Recovery golf tournament on Saturday. How'd it go?
It went great. We had a great turnout. Was praying all week for the rain to go away. What a great witness that I prayed and said I went to the golf course Friday at 6 p.m. and Tracy said, hey, the back nine is underwater. It will not, if it rains again, you can't pass.
So, I live out that way. I live in the neighborhood there. Yeah. And when he says it's flooded, I don't know if everybody's really seen what he means by that.
Yeah.
There is literally a river running through it. When they say it's flooded, there are about 4 holes on the back nine that look like a river. So, so that's what he tells you on Friday.
And he says, hey, if it rains again, you won't play the back nine. I got up that morning, prayed, went to the golf course, and he said, hey, I don't know how to explain. I don't know how to tell you, but you can play on the back nine this morning. And I'm like, I can tell you, I prayed really hard to have this day, and we had 17 teams show up.
Hey, dude, and you may have been so close with God, you should try to walk across a pond, just see if you were.
Yeah, don't worry. I don't know if I fit in that category, but I think that God wanted that to be a witness to Him.
Yeah.
On a golf course, so
yeah, man. And so you had 17 teams, and the guy who runs the golf course out there told you this is the largest tournament they have at Indian Trace throughout the year. He kind of challenged you a little bit. What did he say?
Yeah, so he said, hey, so you think you can grow this thing? Because if you can, we'll have a morning flight and we'll have an evening flight. And so every year we've grown this thing. And so I told him, I said, I'll take the challenge. And so I'm challenging everybody now to kind of, hey, let's step up the game. Let's make our community even better by raising this money to make a difference in it.
And that's really important. There's about $23,000 that just comes from tithes and offerings through the church to support Celebrate Recovery. Yeah. But there's also another $12,000 that you use that you need for training events through the year. So it's about $35,000 a year that we need to do Celebrate Recovery. So, man, to see it grow would be really good. But, Celebrate Recovery is a big part of Liberty and has been now for, 11 or 12 years? 12 years.
This July.
Yeah. And, man, today on the podcast, we have got one of those stories, Nathan Green. Yeah. And, when obviously you have to be a little bit guarded by some of the things that you say when you're on this. You know Nathan well. Man, I've known him for a long time, seen God really grow his life. What he's going to say on this podcast, you can't imagine how bad it really was, that what the Lord has brought him through.
Yeah.
You talk about a life that the devil tried to steal, kill, and destroy. Yep. That is Nathan Green. Yep. And to see where he is now, just kind of what you've probably walked closer with him than I have over the years. What do you see in this guy?
So, man, Nathan has, when he first came to Celebrate Recovery, he had tried NA and a lot of different other things and fell in love with Celebrate Recovery and actually, I was leading small groups then. I wasn't even the ministry leader. And he came in, and, man, me and him kind of clicked, and I took him under my wing, and we just began to grow together. And, man, I've watched Nathan transform into this just amazing leader, full of the Spirit of God, and just leaps and bounds of where he came from his story.
Yeah, I mean, Nathan's not just involved in Celebrate Recovery, man. He's a leader in our church. He's one of our yoke fellows. I mean, he's busy every Sunday serving the Lord, man. He is an integral part of what's going on. So you're going to love this story today. This is the last of the storm stories that we've been doing in the month of April. And then next month, as we get into May, you're going to see Lori bring some stories of the growth that the trial produces in people's lives. So let's get right to it. Here we go, live at Liberty.
Hello, Liberty. It's Nicole. I'm happy to be back this week. So I have birthdays from last week when I was out and this week. So help me wish Abigail Hendricks, Peggy Allison, Kathy Hall, Asa Smith, Melissa Ketchum, Amber Cross, April Harwood, Haley Pelfrey, and Peyton Smith all a happy birthday. And then we have one anniversary to celebrate. Tim and Kim Daly will be celebrating 26 years of marital bliss on May 1st. I have a lot of sports updates. I think I've turned into a sports commentator. But for our softball team, we have week 4, game 1, a hard-fought game between friendly rivals, ended in a way you may or may not have expected it to. We tied Fellowship Baptist 15-15. Week 4, game 2, a great team win in this game. We beat Central Cross Trainers 19-12, leaving us with a 5-2 record for the regular season after our last 2 regular season games were canceled due to weather. They will be playing in a tournament, and I will have those updates for you as soon as I get them. Kezra Jones, son of Courtney Jones, is a member of the Murray County High School tennis team, and they won the region tournament and the first round of the state tournament. They will play in the second round of the state tournament this week. Jake Carver and the Northwest Bruins tennis team traveled to and beat Cairo High School in the first round of state playoffs. They will advance to the Sweet 16 and play against Calhoun this week. So good luck to all of our tennis players. Carson Lowry performed in the CHS production of Newsies, and he did a great job. Very talented Carson. So thank you guys for being with me this week. Let me know what you have going on that we can celebrate, and I will turn you over to Brian.
We have Nathan Green with us today. Good to welcome to Live at Liberty, man. Appreciate you being willing to share your story. So I think a lot of people know you because you've been at Liberty for a long time. But just introduce yourself to everybody, how long you've been at Liberty, and tell us what you do.
My name is Nathan Green. I've been here at Liberty. I first came to Liberty CR in 2015, and I think I became a member in 2016. I served the CR ministry. I served the church as a yoke fellow to the deacon body. Help usher on Sunday morning, just kind of a little bit of everything.
Yeah, you are heavily involved, man. I appreciate you. So we're going to put a picture up here on the screen, and man, your story and your testimony is one of those that I look at like, wow, look at what God has done. And the first time you shared these pictures on social media, I couldn't believe it, man. I didn't really understand your story until I saw that. But when you look at those pictures of this place, first of all, tell us what that is, and just kind of what are some of the feelings that come to your heart and mind when you see those images?
I see a lot of pain, just horrible times. I spent a lot of time isolated there. I spent a lot of time there just with really nothing, no food, power, water, and just living in filth. And at the time, I really didn't think it was all that bad. It's weird how addiction will kind of blind you.
Yeah. So when did you take those pictures? You took the pictures.
Yeah. Well, I had ended up getting arrested in June of 2014, which is what led me into recovery. I was mandated to a private rehab called Penfield down in South Georgia. And I didn't go back to my trailer for about 4 years. I just stayed away from it. It just wasn't a good place to be. So when I went back to the trailer and I walked in and I saw everything just how I left it.
So it'd been sitting there 4 years.
Yeah,
just
4
like
years.
Wow.
Yeah. And there was an unopened beer sitting there, and it was just filthy and just completely wrecked. Something told me I need to get pictures of this because this is, 4 years into recovery, and I walk in and I see it and I'm like, man, this is bad.
Yeah.
So.
But that place, it was not always that place. That was a happy place for you.
Yeah, my mom raised my brother and I there. She bought the trailer, I think, in 1985.
Okay.
And then had it put there right next to my grandmother's house. And it was, just a real wholesome environment. It was the best childhood that I think anybody could ask for. We were always, it was just a happy home.
Yeah.
And for it to end up looking the way it did it's just kind of crazy.
So that trailer had some happy memories in your childhood, and but but you made a move and got away from there, and things really kind of began. That set up kind of a downward spiral in your life. What happened in that point?
Well, my brother and I went to see our dad every other weekend, so he was in our life, and there was a lot of things that happened because he was a long distance truck driver. There were a lot of things that happened in the home as far as abuse and things like that traumatized me in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So, but when I was 14, he told me he wanted me to move in with him, and at that time he was giving me a lot of freedom to do, just to have fun. So I moved in with him, and I was kind of left on my own to just do whatever I wanted to do. And, substance abuse started coming into the picture. I started hanging out with the kids in the neighborhood that I shouldn't have been hanging out with. And up until about 17 is when I moved back into that trailer because my mom had moved to Tunnel Hill. She had gotten married and moved to Tunnel Hill. So she told me I could move in there. And live there.
So you've gone through your teenage years, abuse, anxiety. Now we brought in to kind of fill the void with some drugs and alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're back to the trailer, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So what happens there?
Well, for a while, I was still abusing substances at the time, but the trailer stayed in really good shape. I had family that would help me. I worked. This was early on in my addiction, so I was very much functioning. I hadn't done a damage to my body at that point. And so I guess rolling on into around when I was in my early 20s, I had my first child. Okay. And her mother and her and my, I guess you would call her my stepdaughter, lived there in the trailer for a little bit. And I was on and off with their mother for a while. And just kind of lived life. And
so you're beginning to raise your own children
mm-hmm.
in the same place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and during this time, I was having a lot of issues, just chaos. I had a couple of drug overdoses. One of them almost killed me, and I was just not there for my kids. I was a bad father. I was just absent. Even when I was there, I wasn't really there. You know what I mean? But, moving into 26 years old is when I was struck with pancreatitis for the first time. Mm. And that's from heavy alcohol abuse.
Yeah.
And so once that started coming into the picture, I realized at that point that I couldn't stop drinking, when I wanted to.
Yeah. But, man, you're not the kind of guy you wanted to be, right?
Right.
You kind of lost your family at that point. And, now you got these health issues, mental health issues are kind of really crunching down on your life. What happens next?
Well, eventually, because my drinking became so bad, the mother of my kids ended up leaving me for another guy, which understandable. She took off. I was a mess. And things really, really started to get bad after that. Like as far as my substance abuse, my drinking, I was in and out of the hospital with pancreatitis. I started neglecting the trailer, just wasn't taking care of it, wasn't paying the bills.
So you and I were talking the other day, and you said at one point there's no power.
Yeah.
There's no water, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes you're running a drop cord to your grandma's house just to charge your phone, right?
Yeah. That was the last 2 or 3 years of me living there with no power, no water.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I think you said something about there was a Christmas where you said this is the last Christmas that I live like this, right?
Yeah, the Christmas of 2013, I was there, and I think there was probably one other person kind of hanging out with me that day, and they ended up leaving. But I had no money, no food, no nothing. And it was just, and my family at that point wasn't helping me with anything. And it was just one of the most depressing days. And I remember telling myself at the time, and I had no idea how, it's not of my own doings that I didn't spend another Christmas like that. But I just, in my mind, I was like, I don't ever want to spend another Christmas like this.
So what was the turning point?
The turning point was when I got arrested, ended up getting arrested and mandated to rehab. I was mandated for a year to a private Christian rehab down in South Georgia called Penfield Christian Homes. And it was in that program that I was moved away from the substances for a while. And I realized if I wanted to actually live, like actually stay alive, that I had to do something different.
Wow.
Because if not, I mean, I was in and out of the hospital with pancreatitis. Doctors were telling me if you keep drinking, you're not going to make it much longer. So I was scared to death when I came back to Dalton. Of course, I stayed. I got an apartment somewhere else. I didn't stay in that trailer, but I was scared to death. I didn't think that I could actually stay clean and sober outside of a treatment facility, but I started doing all the things that people told me I needed to do. You know, the people that had got clean and sober and stayed that way. Even though I didn't understand a lot of what they were saying, I did it anyway.
Yeah.
Because I wanted a new way of life.
And then you came to Liberty through Celebrate Recovery.
Yeah, in 2015, I came to CR, and everybody was real encouraging to me, and I found a home here.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. And then, you know, this segment is kind of, we're calling it Storm Stories, about just, man, those storms of life the Lord's brought you through, but those storms bring you to a really good place. And I mean, here you are, man. You're one of our yoke fellows in our deacon ministry. You've been one of the leaders in Celebrate Recovery. I mean, it's like you said, man, you serve and do all kinds of stuff. So if you could, let's say, I hope I'm getting my dates right. If you could look back and talk to, let's say, 2012 Nathan, what would you say to that guy right now?
Well, 2012 Nathan was an IV drug user. Heavy alcoholism. But it was the year that my pancreatitis went chronic on Thanksgiving Day that year. It actually went chronic to where it was permanent damage to my pancreas, and I would be dealing with it for the rest of my life. So let's say we go back to early 2012. I don't think there's really much of anything that I could have said to him that would have made a difference. But I think I would have just let him know that God loved him.
Man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in that situation right now that need to hear that. You know, because I think when you're in a situation like that, you don't think anybody loves you, especially God.
Oh, yeah.
That's a great message. So you have, you know, in our Celebrate Recovery program, we have 12 steps. And you've been through a 12-step before, but you've been going through one here recently. And you and I have been meeting together for about 6 weeks. You've worked through step 4, just kind of going through an inventory of something like that. You know, and obviously we don't want to get into the details of anything, but just to encourage other guys. Maybe they're in a place right now where they're going through a storm. Mm-hmm. And what is, I mean, you called on me, man, and absolutely, I'll meet with you. What does that do for you, just to have that other voice just kind of in the fight with you? How has that helped you? The 12-step, and then just kind of having other people come along with you and help you think through some things?
Well, it gives me a different perspective because people can see things about me that I can't see. And it helps me to stay out of denial because I've got somebody that's kind of calling me on things. And to go back through a 12-step, especially steps 4 through 9 in recovery, the steps are meant to work actually over and over again as things kind of pile up into life. You know, you work the steps, and then, you know, things get a little out of focus, I guess you could say. So going back through those steps and going back through that process of finding out what the issue is, confessing it, seeing what the character issues are, and making amends in those relationships, it's refreshing. It's a refreshing thing. It gives you kind of a fresh fire. So,
you know, you and I meeting these last 6 weeks, one of the things that we've really been challenged on is how things can get in your mind, especially in a storm, man. Those storms can really get in your mind, and you can have something going on in your mind and be convinced it's truth. And I, you know, in us meeting, I've heard you say a couple times, I'm about 99% sure that's what's happened.
Yeah.
And I would challenge you and go, but is that 100% fact? And I would challenge you to go have some conversation. And man, you were courageous and you did, which is really good. So I think everybody watching this has done the same thing. I've done the same thing. How has that how has that exercise of having those conversations, sometimes hard conversations, and really getting down to the truth kind of helped some of the things that were swirling around in your heart and your mind?
Well, I'm real socially awkward and introverted, so I tend to bottle up. I'm just not a people person. I'm not a talker, so I can get in my head, and things can just, over time, just get kind of really wacky as far as what I think's going on or something that's happened. Why, just all kinds of different things. But you took me to a passage of scripture that I was already familiar with, and I think most everybody else is too, Matthew 18. And you said, this is the actual order that things have to happen. You need to go to the person, which I knew that, but for some reason I needed you to tell me that. And so that's what I did. And it was like just a huge weight off my shoulders. That's the only way I can describe it.
Yeah, man, the Lord's doing great things in your life right now, and He's using you in an incredible way. And I love what you said a minute ago, man. If you could just look at people going through that spot in their life and go, man, the Lord loves you.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge part, because we all go through these storms, man. We all do. But, hey, I appreciate you being on the podcast and being a part of this and sharing your story. And, I would encourage everybody at Liberty, you see Nathan around, man, ask him just kind of about the journey. He can be a big help to you. And I know that you have been a big help to others in 12 steps and different things and Celebrate Recovery. But I hope that in April you've enjoyed these storm stories. And we get into May, we're going to be talking about the growth that some of these storms bring in people's lives. But thank you for being a part, once again, of Live at Liberty.